Okay, hi everyone. So today we're gonna talk a little bit about your balancing equations. Okay, so before the lesson starts, please make sure that the students have a periodic table. And then I'm gonna show you guys how I navigate through these notes. And then you guys have to monitor the students. So the teaching here is actually quite minimal, but you guys need to pay attention to the students' ability to get the chemical formulas because this is an essential chapter that will actually determine if they will be able to have a good foundation in chemistry. Okay, so I'll show you guys how I start my lesson. Okay, so hi students. So today we're going to learn about your chemical formulas. So the first thing that you are expected to do, let me show you a little bit. So for example, if I ever give you the name calcium nitrate, I actually expect you to be able to arrive at the answer of calcium nitrate here, Ca bracket NO3 bracket 2 within 5 seconds. But of course, that is the expectation that we're working towards. We'll work towards that. So to be able to get this formula, you need to first be able to separate them out into the two words, your calcium and your nitrate. Okay, so after that, you need to be able to determine the charge. Okay, so for example, calcium is 2 plus, nitrate is minus. Okay, so now just focusing on the charge. Okay, what you realize is that you will need 2 of this guy here to actually be able to neutralize with 1 of this guy here. So that means you need 2 sets of NO3. Okay, so with that, right, okay, let me give you guys a couple of examples and you tell me the answer. So for example, if I have Na plus and you have Cl minus, okay, this will add up to give you NaCl. Okay, next, if I have, let's say, Na plus and O2 minus, okay, this will add up to give you Na2O. Okay, another example, let's say if I have Mg2 plus and Cl minus, this will add up to give me MgCl2. Okay, to give you a little bit, something a little bit harder, let's say I have Al3 plus and O2 minus. Okay, this will add up to give you Al2O3. Okay, so you'll realize that these charges won't cancel out perfectly. So you will need 2 Al and you'll need 3 O's. Okay, so I hope you guys caught that. Okay, so at this point in time, if the students haven't caught up, do give them a few more examples to make sure they understand that when it comes to chemical formulas, they are not memorizing it, but they actually determine it through the neutralization of charges between positive and negative ions. Okay, after that, you can move on to the next page. Okay, so students, once you guys have understood this concept, very good. There are a few important ions that I need you to look at. So the first one is your sulfate, which is 2 minus. Okay, your nitrate, which is minus charge. Carbonate is 2 minus, hydroxide is minus, and ammonium is plus. So I need you to be able to pay attention to the names, make sure you are familiar with them, okay, so that when we do the questions later on, you will know that you need to refer to these ions. So these ions are not given to you during your exams. You are expected to memorize them about anything about them. Okay, so today I highlighted 5 because these are the main 5 that we'll focus on. Okay, and for phosphate, we'll look at it at a different time. Okay, so now that you are okay with this, let's try a few couple of questions first. So over here, I'll let the students try just a couple of questions from A, B, C, D, all the way to G. Okay, so this is just to let them get a hang of it. Okay, so let's take a look at how I'll do this. Okay, students, so over here, I'm going to get you guys to try a few questions. So let me show you how I'll do it. Okay, so if you actually look at the periodic table, you have, sodium chloride. So what am I going to do, right, is you need to first find the symbol of sodium, okay, your Na, and then because it's group 1, he'll be plus charge. Okay, and then your chlorine, which is Cl, will be in group 17, so he'll be a minus charge. Okay, so at this point in time, if let's say you do not know how to get the charge, let me give you a shortcut. Okay, so anything that is in group 1, okay, will be plus charge. Group 2 will be 2 plus. Group 13 will be 3 plus. Group 15 will be 3 minus. 16 will be 2 minus, and 17 will be a minus charge. Okay, so any element that you find in this group will follow this charge. Okay, so back to the sodium chloride. Once you have gotten that it's Na plus and Cl minus, you can actually combine them and then you'll get your answer of NaCl. Okay, so you have no questions here. You guys can try the question up to G, and then I'll go through the rest with you guys. Okay, so at this point in time, let the students try the question. After that, when you come here, okay, the next part you want to go through with them is to go through this part. So look at this. Okay, students. So now I'm going to show you a couple of things. Okay, so do you see all these numbers, right? All these 2, 3, 2, 2. Okay, what do they represent? They actually represent the charge. Okay, or you can take it at this point in time, the charge of the specific element here. So for example, copper is Cu. Because of the number 2, you'll see a 2 plus. Iron, the symbol is Fe. But because it's iron 3, his charge will be 3 plus. Okay, so the same for copper 2 plus. Okay, and then lead will also be 2 plus. Okay, so apart from this, I also want you guys to note one thing. Okay, I'm going to highlight all these multi-elemental ions that you can see. Right, so the purpose why I highlight them is to remind you that these ions are the ions that you must memorize, and that they are found on the previous page that we just talked about. Okay, so make sure you remember them. Okay, and apart from that, there are 2 more things that I need to tell you about silver and zinc. Okay, so silver will always be Ag plus, and zinc will always be Zn2 plus. So these are 2 ions that you must memorize the charge, where they will not give it to you as well. Okay, so at this point in time, let the students try out the questions. Check out their work, make sure it's all good. And once it's good, right, you can actually move on to the next part. I'll get them to do a little bit more practice. So usually I'll go from 11 onwards all the way until 40. Okay, so usually from 1 to 10 I'll omit, because these are the formulas of compounds that they should already know. Okay, but we'll cover that in the other parts. So no worries, focus on 11 to 40 for them first. Okay, so once the students are done with these questions, what you want to do is to test them onto the next part, okay, which is applying it to an equation. Okay, so what I like to do, especially if students are a little bit weaker, is to bring them to this page here. Okay, I'll give them a couple of questions to try. Okay, so for example, I like to use E, F, and G. Okay, so what I'll show them is I'll say, okay, guys, so after we have tried chemical formulas, let's apply it to our equations. Okay, so for E, right, how am I going to do it? Aluminium, okay, from your periodic table, just be Al. Okay, copper 2 sulfate, okay, we did this just now. Okay, so we know that this is CuSO4. Okay, and copper is just the metal itself, so it's a Cu. And then aluminium sulfate, so it's Al2 bracket SO4 bracket 3. Okay, so at this point in time, don't focus on the balancing. Get the students to get the equation out first. Okay, so once that they have done it, then you tell them that, okay, right, let me show you how to balance the equation. So this is how I'll show them. Okay, students, so let's take a look at how we balance this equation. So for me, I like to start off with the most complicated person. So if you look at aluminium sulfate, he looks the most complicated. So I like to focus on the sulfate. Okay, so when it comes to the sulfate, how many sets of sulfate do you see? How many? Right, you'll see 3. So because of that, you need to put 3, okay, in front of the sulfate, all right, on the left-hand side. Okay, you want to make sure everything that's on the left and everything on the right is accounted for. Okay, so at the same time, now that you have added 3 in front of CuSO4, you will need to pay attention to the Cu. On the left, I have 3. Now on the right, I will need to have 3 as well. Okay, and finally, you are left with aluminium. There's 2 on the right, so I need 2 on the left. Okay, so over here, after this, you will let the students try the questions. So the questions are very liquid. You can give them any examples that you want to give them from all these. So at least all the way up to page 12, the questions are meant to be easy. Okay, so from where we started off, from page 10 to page 12, the questions are meant to be extremely easy to let the students get a hang of it. So if the students are weak, let them try this. But if they're a little bit more, advanced, you can let them try the question over here. Okay, so I'll show you how I'll teach this to the students who are a little bit better. Okay, so I'll tell the students. Okay, students, come. So now I'm going to test your skill a little bit more. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this question. You're going to try the rest for me. Okay, so calcium here is Ca. Okay, aluminium nitrate is Al, bracket NO3, bracket 3. After that, I have calcium nitrate, and I have aluminium. Okay, so after we've gotten the equation, I need to do a little bit of balancing. Okay, so if I do a little bit of balancing, right, it'll be about 3 here, right, 2 here, 2 here, and then a 3 here. Okay, so show the students how you do it for the first one, then you get them to try the rest. So you might need to give them the formula of ammonia because they may not know it. It's NH3, and also help them a little bit for hydrogen. Hydrogen is actually H2. Okay, so the students may not know, you help them with this. Okay, also let them know that when they are trying this question, that there might be some equations that are already naturally balanced by itself. For example, question number 4 and 5, the questions will already be naturally balanced. You do not have to do anything about it. Okay, so this is for students who are a little bit better, just to test them a little bit. So once the students are really comfortable, okay, so if let's say the students are able to do this really, really well, what you can do is actually go all the way to the last 2 pages. Okay, there are questions here that you can give them. Okay, so over here is purely focusing on balancing only. Okay, so you can let them try the questions here as in when you feel like it. Okay, so these are usually meant for students who are already better. If the students are weak, just focus on the questions on page 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so with that, I hope I have covered a little bit about how to teach your chemical formulas. One last thing to note is that if the students see things like nitric acid, hydrochloric acid, they are unfamiliar and they ask you, just redirect them back to this page here on page number 2. You can tell them that here are the formulas and names of your acids. Okay, so if you're ever lost in my recording, just focus on the bottom right. As I scroll my pages, you'll be able to see the page number. Okay, so if you have no questions, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and then that's it for this chapter. All right, so this is your chemical formulas.